You don't need a PhD to understand that the Arab Spring was meant to prepare the way for the Arab slaughter. That they are preparing great wars against the Arabs. Because in order for Israel to become the ruling state in the world, Israel has to impose her political and economic dominion over the Arabs. Number two, Israel cannot impose her political and economic dominion over the Arabs unless and until Israel wages great wars. And these are not only military wars, these are also biological wars. And succeeds in substantially reducing the population of the Arab world. But Israel has to do something more. Israel has to expand her territory to encompass the eastern delta of Egypt. She can't do that with an aerial war or a naval war. She has to have a ground invasion. And so the plan is to attack Egypt from the east with ground troops. And when Israel attacks from the east, then NATO will attack from the west, from Libya. And those fools, and that's what they deserve to be called, fools. They were fools in Libya, and they're just as foolish in Syria today. Those fools who made an alliance with NATO, NATO being the military arm of the Zionist Judeo-Christian alliance. Those fools who made an alliance with NATO to overthrow the Libyan government have now given to NATO opportunity to be present in Libya. And so NATO will attack from the west and Israel from the east. And there will be a naval blockade from the north. And you have southern Sudan also, which is an ally of Israel today, from the south. And so they'll attack Egypt from east, west, north and south, from above and even from below, because they now have the power to make earthquakes. That war on Egypt is coming. And they need a justification for war. They need a casus bellum for war. They don't want to attack Egypt and appear to be aggressors. So what do they do? What do they do to prepare the way for war on Egypt? Is Ikhwan aware of this? At a moment when Egypt should be coming together, all the different forces in Egypt should be uniting to resist the greatest threat that has ever existed in Egyptian history, the Zionist threat of an attack on Egypt. At this moment when we should be uniting our people, Ikhwan's government in Egypt has succeeded, and succeeded dramatically in dividing the people as they were never divided before. Is that wisdom? Is that the destination that you take in Egypt to? Who is smiling today with what is happening in Egypt? The answer, the Zionists are smiling. That's the answer. They want to be able to set up Egypt for the attack on Egypt. That they'll make it possible through the Arab Spring for a so-called Islamic government to come into Egypt. And then they'll help that Islamic government to take control of the military. And then they'll help that Islamic government to take control of the judiciary. So that the Islamic government is in total control of Egypt. And when the Islamic government is in total control of Egypt, and the Sharia is enforced on Egypt, and civil war comes to Egypt, they'll smile. And then they will exploit the weakness of the ulama to make the Sharia look stupid. to make the Sharia look foolish, to make the Sharia look savage and backward. And there are many ways that they can do that because of the failure of the ulama today. And then they will be able to show to the world, this is what Islam is doing in Egypt. And these people are bloodthirsty people, and they only want to cut the throat of Israel in order to be able to attack Egypt and yet not be blamed for committing aggression. Is Ikhwan going to take Egypt to that destination? Knowing that that's the destination to which the world is now moving? What should we do, O Egypt, at this moment? After the colossal failure of the advisors to the present Egyptian government, they should be removed. And men of greater wisdom should take over. Number 2, no constitution should be enforced upon the people unless and until it is arrived at through consensus. The Christians in Egypt have an equal political right to the Muslims to a constitution to which they will agree. Number 3, that the Sharia should be enforced only on those who are willing to submit to the Sharia. So it will not be the law of all Egypt. No. The other systems of law will function alongside the Sharia. Number 4, that when the Sharia is enforced, we should not so enforce the Sharia that we look like fools. Rather, Islamic scholarship must rise to the occasion. Islamic scholarship must rise to the occasion to operate the Sharia in such a way that it demonstrates its evident superiority over all rival systems of law. That's not easy. That is not easy. That requires the best Islamic scholarship in the world today. And also it requires that Islamic scholarship must expand its vision beyond law to encompass all other subjects that are relevant, including the one in which I specialize, ilmu akhirul zaman. I pray that these words of mine may not offend, may not hurt. I pray that these words of mine may be accepted in the spirit in which I am given them. Yes, I have used harsh language to condemn reckless and misguided behavior because the moment is now too dangerous. I pray that Egypt may step back from this pit of fire at which it now stands. The reason may prevail, good sense may prevail, and that the constitution may be established on the basis of consensus, and that the Sharia be enforced only on those who are willing to submit to the Sharia. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.